Hey, in this video, I'm going to talk about 4 friction hitches. They are the Prusik knot, sometimes called the classic Prusik, the Autoblock, which I've heard referred to as the French Prusik, although I very rarely hear this terminology used to describe this. Normally, it's called Autoblock. We'll talk about the Klemheist, pretty popular, and then the Hedden knot. This one's kind of interesting. I've seen this. I've never seen anyone use this, but it has a kind of interesting property that I wanted to show you, and thus I've included it in this list. Of note, I don't know how to pronounce this word, so I'm calling it Hedden, and I will call it Hedden for the purposes of consistency, but don't confuse consistency with accuracy. I don't know if it's Hedden or Hedden, but again, I'm going to refer to it as the Hedden knot. Let's start with the classic Prusik. Classic Prusik has one end of the loop that will tie to the climber, so that will be this end right here. Okay, so I'll take this shorter end, and I will place it on top of my rope, and I'm going to wrap it around my rope, my climber rope, 3 times, wrapping to the inside each time. Not that you could, you could wrap to the outside. So we're wrapping to the inside each time, so there's 1 wrap. Here are 2 wraps, and then lastly, 3 wraps. Then I just dress this. Oh, good. You can actually see me having a little problem there with my dressing. See this? Make sure that this strand of rope going over this portion right here stays at the top. You don't want that kind of business right there. Okay. Instead, again, you want to make sure that you know what the heck you're doing. What am I doing is the question here. There we are. You want this piece of cordage to go from the top of the knot all the way down to the bottom of the knot, and then dress that up. All right, advantages of this knot are that it locks in 2 different directions, what I'm going to refer to as up and down. All right, so when I pull this up, it engages, that's instantaneous. For all intents and purposes, that is instantaneous engagement, right? Loosen it up, we'll pull down on it. Again, that's basically instantaneous engagement. Okay? And it's quite strong. Disadvantages to this knot are that under really high load, it can be hard to move the knot. Right? What makes friction hitches so handy is that they're mobile. Right? You can move them up and down a piece of rope. And when you take a classic Prusik and put a lot of load on it, and then you want to move the knot down, it takes a lot more force to get this thing to move down. Oh, I'm moving my rope instead of the Prusik, Jesus. You can just take a lot of force to pull this knot down. That can be disadvantageous if you are abseiling and you fall or slip or in some way engage this knot as your backup on your abseil with a lot of weight. Right? You engage it and it's got a lot of weight on it, and then you're wanting to slide back down, continue to slide down your rope in your abseil, and you can't get this thing to break loose. So I don't know. I don't think this would be great for abseiling. Of note, apparently sometimes people will tie this with just 2 wraps so that it looks like this. I don't know much about a Prusik tied with only 2 wraps, 4 visual loops around the Prusik. I'm not quite sure how good this works, so I can't speak intelligently on that. Or I should say, from experience. I cannot speak from experience on that. All right, let's move on to the Autoblock, or the French Prusik. I like to tie my my friction hitches with my rope going behind the rope, away from myself. For that last classic Prusik, I tied it on top. I started like this, so that at the end, it quickly and easily looked just like it looks in pictures. so it's visually pleasing. All right. So here we're going to go with Autoblock. This is probably the simplest of the friction hitches to tie, I dare say. So here we go. 1 wrap, 2 wraps, 3 wraps, and then the 4th wrap, like this. This is our Autoblock. The more wraps you put in this, I believe the more the more strength this will have in holding onto the rope. Kind of limited by how long your piece of cordage is. I watched an interesting video on this and a couple of other friction hitches on how not to highline, which is, I really like that channel, frankly. And they found that the Autoblock slides at very low force loadings. So I think the 3 wrap Autoblock, this is the 4, but the 3 wrap Autoblock came loose at something like 1/10 of a kilonewton, something like that. And the 4 wrap came loose at a few more than that, but not real great. So here I'll kind of give the Autoblock a pull. There you can see it engaging. This is, this works. I have a bias against this knot. Having seen in videos this knot slide under loads that are not very high, it makes me think that if you were abseiling and you, for whatever reason, became unconscious, right, and this was your abseil backup, and the whole purpose of the abseil backup is to work in the worst case scenario. That's why you tie it. I think that this could potentially slide if you fell unconscious and you fell onto your friction hitch backup. Of note, though, it breaks loose real easy, which kind of makes it dangerous. So that is the Autoblock. Next, let's look at the Klemheist and then the Hedden knot. So for the Klemheist, we're also going to wrap 4 times. Again, 4 in order to ensure that it will grip onto our rope even at more elevated loadings. So here's 1, 1 wrap, 2, 3, and then there's the 4th wrap right there. This piece then, get this loop, comes from the top of the knot down. We slide the portion of our cordage that connects to the climber here. Right. We do a little dressing. This is our Klemheist. Pretty simple and easy knot to remember how to tie. I think that was what makes this popular. Right, connects to our person. We pull on this and it engages pretty well. I think the more classic view is this one. I think this is the classic appearance that one sees. Like this. Yeah. Okay. And that is the Klemheist. I think that the 4th wrap is important. I think 3 wraps is kind of cutting it a little short myself. But you can pull that loose and it comes down, and yet it locks fairly well. I'm pulling pretty hard there. All right, that is Klemheist. All right, now the Hedden. This knot I find really interesting. This is sometimes called the upside down Klemheist. For instance, this is Klemheist. And again, an important idea to remember here with Klemheist is that this loop must come from the top down. the loop leading to the climber begins at the base of this knot. Okay. Hold on just a moment. Okay. The Hedden knot fundamentally is the Klemheist knot turned upside down like this. Now pretend that this is the climber and that this way is going down towards the ground, and here's my anchor up here. You can see the difference between this and the Klemheist, importantly, is that here now the strands that lead directly to the climber are going across the top of the knot. This little loop that holds these together is at the base of the knot. This is the Klemheist that's upside down. Okay. This fundamentally is the Hedden knot. But the Hedden is tied with fewer wraps. So let me show you that one. Of note, just a quick note here for Klemheist, upside down Klemheist, right? This. You know, this seems to lock under load, which I find kind of interesting. Which makes me think that the Klemheist is, I surmise, here just sitting here in my little office, that the Klemheist is somewhat like the Prusik in that it will, I surmise, lock in either direction. But it's very different, right? This is going to get real sloppy real fast, I think. Okay. But here, let's talk about the Hedden knot. So for the Hedden, okay, I begin with the portion of the rope that's going to go to myself on the upper portion. Here I am down here, the climber. Here's my anchor, right? And this is a big difference in how to tie this knot from all the other knots. Here, the portion going to the climber is going to be up high. Okay. Then I make a loop, like so. Real simple loop. And then the portion going to the climber is going to come down and loop through here and go down to the climber. And this is important. I can't reiterate this enough. The Hedden has the portion of the rope going to the climber as crossing over the bulk of the knot. Okay, this is fundamentally different than the Klemheist. So here we are. Our loop. Portion of the cordelet of the cordage going to our climber through here like this. Then we do some dressing. Okay. And again, anchor up here. Climber down here for sure. This is the Hedden knot. Let me make that look real clear to you so it's not so much in the shadows. Like that. Again, the portion of it makes an X, and the top portion of the X that needs to go to the climber. And for very few wraps, this has pretty good hold. I'm kind of surprised by that. I've never tested this rope. I've never jumped on this. I've never used this as a backup. I've not done anything with the Hedden knot other than just stuff here in my office space. But I will comment that this is kind of impressive for so few knots. I'm sorry, for so few wraps in the knot. Kind of an interesting knot. I'd like to know and understand more about this. I'm not recommending this in any way, shape, or form, other than to say this is kind of cool. It's clever. And you can see it's an upside down Klemheist. Here, I'll show you. Let me dress this so you can see it. Okay, so here we are. Hedden knot. Let me just pull it upside down. And you can quickly see that this is the Klemheist. This is just a 2-wrap Klemheist, obviously. I would never recommend a 2-wrap Klemheist. But this, an intriguing knot. All right, that ends my video discussing these 4 friction hitches.